always wanted to try a fountain pen for your sketching, but weren't sure which one to get? Well, today I'm going to show you my 5 favourite fountain pens that I use for sketching on a regular basis. Fountain pens are a fabulous tool for the regular sketcher, the dabbler, or anyone who wants that lovely ink line in their drawing, but with the convenience of a cartridge, rather than a dip pen where you need a bottle of ink and often get very messy fingers. But that could just be me. A fountain pen is so easy to take out and about with a sketchbook when you want to do some drawing away from home. Plus, you get all sorts of nibs and ink colours to make your drawing really unique to you. I will use this type of pen for short sketches, maybe using the blind contour technique or continuous line technique, but also more detailed drawings that take a little bit more time, where I might use something like hatching or cross-hatching for super fine detail. And then there are those pens that give you lovely expressive marks, a little bit like a calligraphy pen where you can get very thin but also very thick marks with the ink. So let's dive in and I'll show you my pens. So the first pen that I'd like to introduce to you is the Parker Vector fountain pen. Now this pen is one of my favourites and it's one of the first that I purchased for sketching. It's relatively affordable and I've got a real soft spot for it because it's the kind of pen that I used at school when I was learning to write. I have this with a medium nib and I have black ink in it, so let's see how this works for sketching. So here is the Parker Vector in action. This pen is a small pen, so it's very light and convenient to hold in the hand. It has a small nib, and I've put a black cartridge in here. With the Parker pens, we use the Parker Quink cartridges, which you can buy individually on little packets like this. And for drawing, we have a medium nib in it, and you can see it's got a really lovely line, and you can do all sorts of drawings and markings using this pen. Now for pen number 2, I would like to show you the Lami Safari cartridge pen. This is another pen that is widely available in regular stationery shops, and I bought it in a bright yellow colour mainly because I think it's rather funky and I quite enjoy it. This is a very well-travelled pen. I use it a lot. It's got a plastic outer and it's very light in the fingertips. It's got a slightly bigger nib than the Parker pen that I showed you in point number 1, and it's got a really lovely grip on it. Let's see how it draws. Let's use it on the paper. So here's our Lami Safari pen in yellow. As you can see, the nib is just slightly bigger than the Parker Vector, but it's still, because of the plastic casing, a very light pen to hold in the hand. Just slightly bigger, and it's got this really lovely grip here. So it's got these indents on either side of the piece that you hold of the pen, so that you can really get a good grip on your pen when you are writing. So this is the Lami Safari. And I've got a black ink cartridge, and again the Lami cartridges are slightly different. It's only one of the disadvantages of owning several different pens is I need several different cartridges because they all have a slightly different ink cartridge. You can get a really good quality of line. I find one of the wonderful things with a medium nib is that if you press a little harder, the nib just opens slightly to give you a thicker line, and if you press lightly, you can get a lighter line. It's a very similar effect to the Parker Vector. This is one that has been incredibly well used by myself and travels about with me all the time. And here we are with pen recommendation number 3. This is another Parker pen. It's a slight step up in terms of price range in the Parker range of fountain pens, and this is the Parker Urban fountain pen. I bought this in a lovely magenta or red kind of colour, and if I open it up you can see here that it's got a lovely silver nib, and it's just a little bit heavier to hold. It's a little bit weighty. It feels really lovely in the hand. I love drawing with this. It's got a lovely fine nib, so let's see how it works on paper. This lovely pen here is the Parker Urban fountain pen, and this actually has a fine nib on it, so the line created by the pen is thinner than, say, a medium nib. So if I want to create really fine, detailed drawings with perhaps very fine hatching or cross hatching, this just gives a slightly different, finer line quality than those pens we've seen so far. This pen is also a little more solid. It's heavier in the hand, so it's just got a really lovely quality and feel to it that doesn't feel cheap. However, if you're drawing for long periods of time, I personally find that I can get a little tired using this pen. I use this pen for a whole sketchbook of cup drawings using the continuous line technique, and using the single pen for a single subject matter and style worked really effectively, and the line quality is just really lovely. Now for recommendation number 4, I have the Kaweko Sport pens, and I've actually got 2 of these because I like it so much. They did a collaboration with Moleskine at one point, and I've got a Moleskine and Kaweko Sport one. They're made in Germany. They're really lovely pens. They're very small, which is one thing that I love. You can take the lid off and pop it on the end to make it a little bit longer when you're holding it. But I've got one with a blue cartridge in with this metal casing, and then I've got one with this lovely marble type plastic casing that I was given as a gift because my other half knows that I have a bit of a thing for art materials and in particular fountain pens, so I'm always looking for new ones to add to my collection. Maybe you're the same. So I've got this one here. Both of them have medium nibs in because I like that nib. So let's try them out on the page and see how they draw. So let's take a look at the Kaweko Sport pens. These are 2 lovely pens that I use all the time. I like them again because they're small, but if you just pop the lid on, it does make the pen a little bit longer. I've got one with a metal barrel, and then this is the one that is the plastic barrel. And again, they both have a medium nib in, and I just keep a blue ink cartridge in one just to give me a different colour to work with. These take regular ink cartridges, so I've got the royal blue in this pen, and then I've got plenty of black cartridges. Both pens are really lovely and wonderful. I like them both. I've got a thing about fountain pens, so hence I have 2 of these because they are just so glorious to sketch with. So I really enjoy these pens. They're just lovely items in themselves, and I like drawing these pens too. So my final recommendation for a good fountain pen to try for sketching is this Fude pen made by Sailor. Now a Fude pen is super funky and a little bit different. I wanted to include this in this 5 fountain pens recommendations today. A Fude pen has the nib at a 40-degree angle, meaning it looks a bit bent, like someone's dropped the pen and it's got bent. But it's done like that by design, and that's to make it more of a calligraphy style pen so that you can get a really wonderful mixture of lines from very fine to thick. So it's the kind of thing that you would see being used for Japanese or Chinese calligraphy, or just calligraphy in general, but it works wonders for sketching and drawing because it gives you a huge selection of line quality to use. This wasn't the most expensive type of Fude pen, so there are all different brands available, but it's a really great one to add to your collection. So let's see how it draws. Let's try it out. So let's take a look at this Fude pen. And this pen, again, it wasn't a very expensive pen. You can get other brands of pen that have this 40-degree angle. Look for the word Fude. I love drawing with this because you can get a super fine line by using the tip, but when you put that 40-degree angle down, you get this wonderful line here. So if you're drawing something and want different line marks and expression, my goodness, you can get just such wonderful drawings created with this pen. So I must say this is one of my favorites for just creating a different line quality that isn't just even all the way through. You can get ink cartridges for it. I personally bought the ink converter for this, so I can just use regular sketching ink for fountain pens and just refill it rather than buying lots of cartridges. But it's a really, really lovely fun pen to play with. Now, just because I love you guys so much, and also because I have a small art materials purchasing problem, I wanted to provide you with a bonus recommendation today. Now, this is the Kuretake fountain brush pen. So it's a fountain pen, but it's also a brush pen. What? That's right, it's a really excellent pen for sketching and drawing. It has an end that is just like a brush pen that you would find on a felt tip, something like that. A little bit like a mini paintbrush on the end, but it has cartridges in it just like a fountain pen. So it's like a lovely blend of pen. And this is a fantastic pen for sketching with because it's like having a black paintbrush in your repertoire, in your pencil case that you can use for sketching to get such a wonderful range of line qualities when you are drawing something. So let's try this one out and see what it looks like. So here is my bonus pen in action, the Kuretake Fountain Brush Pen. Now this pen, as I said, is a brush pen rather than a fountain pen. So it doesn't have the traditional nib that you would find on a usual fountain pen. It's got a paintbrush end. So it's full of little bristles, which means you can use it a little bit like a paintbrush. You can get fine lines by using the tip, and then you can get this lovely paintbrush style of mark by using the brush. So just something very different when you're sketching that can give you this sort of brushwork effect in a fountain pen. So this really is a lovely pen to have in your stash to use when you're sketching out and about. The fountain pens that I've shown you today are just a selection of what I have in my art materials collection. And if you are overwhelmed with what fountain pen to use for sketching, just one of these will give you a great starting point. Please remember that you don't need all of these pens to get sketching. And you don't even need these exact pens to sketch. So if you already have a fountain pen in your stash, give it a try and see how it works. Now, if you want to see inside one of my sketchbooks where I use fountain pen for sketching, then head over to my video, which is part of the Sketchbook Stories series, episode number 16. And in this video, I use my Lami fountain pen, the Lami Safari sketching pen, for doodling little forests. It's a really fun sketching exercise that I'm sure you will love. So I'll see you in the next video, and happy sketching, everyone.